Oh,
Okay.
must be more tired from yesterday than I thought.
We should be on now.
Went on a, I think I went on a pretty big rant on Tim Black's program last night.
Nice.
Okay, I'm seeing live.
Yep.
Oh, yep, I see a live. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh
Okay,
boy.
so we're gonna actually start off, if I can share my screen properly here, replaying a Real News Network interview that Aaron Mate did. Are we on? Is YouTube up yet? It's looking like
Yes.
it.
YouTube, YouTube is up.
Okay.
What's up?
So where is this? The real news?
Yeah, just a second. Yeah, it's a Real News Network, and with Aaron Mate and James Risen of The Intercept. Let's see. Give me just a second. Hang on. All right. Because I don't think we can really. The best way to just discuss it, you have to see this first. It's just the Intercept is becoming more and more disappointing. Especially just when you look at what they did. I mean, you know, John Kiriakou talks about that, how them outing sources, you know, that then go to jail. It's not cool.
Yeah, that is kind of ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's very odd. 1 second. Okay.
Something does seem odd about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Okay, sorry for the delay. Everybody, just a sec. Just have to get this from my one. I couldn't share from the other. I had a mic issue, so having to just move over from my other laptop. Okay. So this isn't. I think it's maybe like 11 minutes long. Let's see. Well, whatever it is, we're gonna play it. Okay, so let's see. Share screen, and there we go. That should be good. Okay. That is not right. Hang on. Shouldn't that be on there? Whoa, wait a minute. Oh, damn it. It's not working.
Sure it is.
What's showing up on the...
What's showing is you've got 2 pages. One has the National Security Agency. You've got the article.
Right.
And on the other one, we can see candidates with a contract and all of your telemetrics for the video stream.
Okay, I just want to make sure what goes up on YouTube is not, you know, well, I don't know. It's hard to tell because I'm trying to pull...
If you can minimize the other window.
Okay, the candidates with a contract is my background. So I thought, hang on, let me just, this is why it's easier to do the other. Okay, that's why it's easier to do the other, with the other laptop. Okay, let me try that again. Shouldn't that come down here like that?
No, you're moving it off the screen.
Damn it. Okay, I don't know. Will this work?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. Hopefully we're seeing the real news on here.
It's the real news. I'm Aaron Mate. NSA leaker, reality winner, was recently sentenced to 5 years in prison for sending a top secret NSA document to the news outlet, The Intercept. The document accuses Russian military intelligence of a cyber operation targeting the U.S. voting system. Reality Winner's prison sentence is the longest ever for a media leak in a federal U.S. case. And among many issues, her case has renewed concerns about the selective and harsh prosecution of some government leakers, but not others. In a statement, The Intercept said Winner was, quote, prosecuted with vicious resolve under the Espionage Act, which it calls, quote, an attack on the First Amendment that will one day be judged harshly by history, unquote. Well, joining me is Jim Risen. He's The Intercept's senior national and security correspondent and director of First Look Media's Press Freedom Defense Fund, which supported Reality Winner's defense. Welcome, Jim. The issue of the prosecution of government leakers has been an issue that you've been close to for some time.
Well, at the very least, it would have been interesting to see James Risen's perspective, if only because this in theory should have been his story, right?
Yeah. You would think.
So yeah, you'd think. So my question is that was he the one that published the original story? And if that's the case, and this is me just asking as a backlog because I haven't had time to check it. If he was the original person who received this information, where the fuck did the leak come from? Was it from Risen himself? In which case, that's guilty of journalistic malpractice. Or was it somebody under his employ? Which is equally problematic because that would mean that, and don't get me wrong, I don't like to talk about it in these kinds of details, but that would seem to imply that he has no control over it.
There you go, Kelly. Now it's up on YouTube.
Right. I'm so confused. What the heck?
I don't know, but you've got it on YouTube now. So just go ahead and hit play.
But how is that? I'm not even sharing my video right now.
I don't understand it either. It's probably some weird way YouTube does.
Or something with Zoom?
Yeah. So it could be something with Zoom. I don't know, but you can play it.
I've done this before. Okay. Oh, well. Here we go.
Talk about the prosecution of Reality Winner and how it fits into the concerns you've been raising for a while about who gets prosecuted, who doesn't, and how they're treated by the justice system.
Yeah, I think her case is one of the biggest miscarriages of justice we've seen in recent times. If you look at the allegations that have been brought by the government, and you have to remember that there was never a trial in this case, so they're still just allegations. She was accused of disclosing one document to a news organization, and that one document was about Russian intelligence efforts to hack into U.S. voting systems at the state level. Now, since her arrest on that in last year, the U.S. Senate has issued a report saying that the Department of Homeland Security failed to adequately warn state officials around the country of the threat from Russian cyber hacking of voting systems. And the Senate report went on to say that it was really only press disclosures that notified the state level officials of the danger and the threat from Russian cyber attacks. That means that while the Justice Department has gone after Reality Winner, the U.S. Senate and Congress have identified what she did as a public service. What she has been accused of doing is something that is to warn the American people about what everyone now in the United States now thinks is one of the biggest threats to the national security of the United States, which is Russian intervention in the election system. And so by calling out and blowing the whistle on that, the Trump administration has cracked down on her and is sending her to jail. Well, all of the people who are actually involved in Russian collusion with Russia are still free. So
I just have to pause for 1 second and say, I like how he spoke for all the people in the U.S. think that that's the biggest story. Did you notice that? That everyone's concerned about that? I just had to.
There's that, and then there's the as you pointed out, the horrible lack of proportion in the sentencing between her and other leakers. And I think the most egregious example is that of David Petraeus, the CIA director who leaked highly classified information.
I remember the story.
Who was supposedly writing something for him, and he got no jail time whatsoever. He was put on probation, and that was it. And the only people who are sentenced to jail for leaking are low-level officials, most of whom have find the leak because they are upset or frustrated at bad policies or illegal activity. And it's really only the high-level leakers who often leak for personal advantage or to help with their political agendas.
Okay, that right there, that statement too, really ticked me off. I'm sorry.
But it's also true. But I mean,
What?
what he's saying here isn't inaccurate.
No, but that they only leak to push their own political agenda. Excuse me? There are a lot of whistleblowers that they wanted to out government corruption. And
I think what he's talking about is high level. The higher level officials who end up leaking information, they typically do it for politically motivated reasons, for increases in wealth and power. And I think that's what he's referring to, which isn't an inaccurate description of the problem. I mean, that's been something that has been an issue with the federal justice system, especially with regards to the Espionage Act, for well over several decades at this point. There is a two-tiered system. I think most of us understand this. There's the one for the peons, like us, and then there's the one for the rich and the powerful, which is represented by the case of David Petraeus, who not only leaked it to a mistress, he ended up leaking quite a large amount of information to his mistress. And he got off basically on probation and dishonorable discharge, which, granted, doesn't look great on a resume, but considering the alternative, he got off pretty lightly.
Right. True. Okay. So here we go.
They get away with it.
Okay, Jim. So I have no disagreement with what you say there about the double standards of play in terms of the selective prosecution and also just the harsh treatment in this case. 5 years in prison.
Yeah. Right.
But let me ask you, what you're also talking about there speaks to what the document actually contains. You say that it alerted the country to a Russian threat to national security and a Russian effort to attack voting systems. Let me ask you, do you think that the document itself actually substantiates that?
Well, I mean, it shows that the U.S. intelligence community, specifically the NSA, had intelligence about that. That there was, I mean, you can debate whether or not the U.S. intelligence community knows what it's doing, and I'll be happy to debate that because I've been a critic of U.S. intelligence for 20 years. But what it did say was that the U.S. intelligence, namely the NSA, had evidence that GRU hackers were attempting to hack into a contractor for voting systems that were used at the state level, and also trying to hack personally into state election officials around the country. Now that is something, frankly, that should not have been classified. That should have been a public warning issued by the U.S. intelligence community to states around the country. And for the most part, those kind of things usually are, the government does warn people about cyber attacks. But this, to me, the fact that they went after somebody for disclosing a document that all it did was warn state officials that they should be on guard against Russian cyber attacks, ridiculous because, as I said, the Senate Judiciary Committee, in a report earlier this year, pointed out specifically at the failures of the government, the federal government, to warn state officials about this, and that it was only these press disclosures that finally alerted state officials to the threat. And if that's to me the definition of a public service act of whistleblowing.
Right. So I would agree that the intent was a public service. She obviously had this document that she thought would show that.
What, Ayla?
No, I was just saying, that's a bit retroactive of a public service, ain't it?
Okay.
That the Russians are meddling in
3 months after.
U.S. voting systems, and she wanted to alert the public, especially a website like The Intercept, which has been associated with challenging that through the writings of Glenn Greenwald. But when you say that the document shows the NSA as evidence, let's go through the document, because I don't think it shows that. And this is where I think The Intercept did not fully explain to readers what the document actually said. And the reason why I think this is important is because this document is the only actual public evidence we have so far that attributes voting hacking attempts to the Russian government. And it's been the basis for a lot of fear about that alleged Russian hacking since. So if you look at the document, there's a legend, and I want to explain it to viewers. And you can't see this, Jim, because you're on the phone with us, but for viewers who are watching, we're going to put it up. So there's a legend, and there are different color codes. So there's a gray line for contextual information, a yellow line for analyst judgment, and a green line for confirmed information. And when you look at the actual attribution on the document in terms of its basis for attributing this to the Russian government attribution does not get a green line for confirmed information. It first gets a yellow line in saying it's probably within the GRU, but that's an analyst judgment of that fact that it's probably within the GRU. So it's not confirmed information. And then furthermore, then there's a gray line for contextual information linking the cyber actor that this analyst judgment says is probably within the GRU. Then the gray line links the GRU to this actor that that allegedly carried out the spear phishing attempts. And so if anything, the document itself shows that the NSA, at least according to this document, is not even sure, does not have confirmed information. It's the GRU. It's simply the judgment of one analyst. And I'm wondering if, based on that, you are open to the possibility that the significance of this document has been inflated.
I disagree with you on this point. I think that you can always debate the evidentiary basis for U.S. intelligence reporting. I'm a skeptic more so than probably anybody else in journalism about U.S. intelligence reports over the years. But I think the fact remains that this was an important document for the public to know about and for U.S. election officials to know about, to make an informed and educated decision on how they go forward and how they take protections for U.S. election systems. Now, you can debate endlessly whether or not the U.S. has sufficient evidence of Russian cyber attacks, and I'm not, maybe it's been overblown, but I tend to think it hasn't been in this case because there's so much evidence today of.
Okay, I just want to pause right there. What evidence? We haven't seen it, and what does it matter what he thinks, or what Aaron Mate thinks, or what anybody else thinks? I just find that really odd. But
Russian efforts to intervene in the U.S. election in 2016, that I think this was part of that. And so, I think that it was an important thing it was an important public service to warn U.S. officials and the public about this. And, you can still debate whether or not the Russian cyber offensive against the United States has been overblown, but I think it's still important for American state-level officials to know about the potential threat.
There's no argument there, but I'm wary there about conflating two issues. There's the issue of whether this was a public service to alert voting officials in states about potential malignant actors, which is, of course, the public service. And any leak is really a public service. I mean, it's great. But the question is, does the problem that I have here is when this document is adduced, as has been done by The Intercept and many outlets, to prove or to substantiate claims that there was a Russian government hacking attack, when the document itself shows that this is not just only one analyst's judgment, but not confirmed information, but that even attributing to the GRU, the Russian military intelligence, is done contextually. So it's even a lower grade than one analyst's judgment. And so if anything, it proves, I think, actually the thin evidentiary basis for all these claims, which you seem to be taking on face value, that the Russian government is
I'm not
meddling
taking anything on face value, and as I said, I've been a skeptic about U.S. intelligence for a long time, and but I am also able to hold two competing thoughts in my head at one time. One is that I know institutionally the CIA, the NSA, and other intelligence agencies make lots of mistakes. I also know that sometimes they get things right. And so I am able to parse things myself and look at the evidence on a case-by-case basis. And I don't hold a view one way or the other that everything the NSA or the CIA says is true, or that everything they say is false.
Jim, what I'm doing,
So
I think I'm parsing exactly the document itself. I never made a categorical statement about what is true or not about the CIA, or of course evidence should be evaluated. And so I'm saying in this case, in the case where a document is produced to substantiate claims of Russian meddling, the document itself shows that it's one analyst's judgment, and even there,
I think I heard
it's contextual.
Several times you said that.
So what I'm saying is,
before. So we just disagree on this point. So I think.
So they disagree on the facts of the document, whether it shows definitively a hack or not.
Yeah, I don't know how you can argue with the facts on that. That's bizarre.
Yeah, disagreeing on the facts. Okay.
Important document to be published is an important document to be written about. It was a public service to have it disclosed. I don't think it's the last word on the issue of Russian cyber attacks on the U.S. I think we need more evidence one way or the other to prove what's really going on. And I don't think anybody has said that this is the last word on it. So I'm open to more
not,
evidence.
but it's been the basis for it. And that's my concern with the reliance on it, because again, as I've said now several times, the document itself, I think, shows just how thin the evidentiary basis is. Let me also, on that front,
I don't think that's correct. I think you're saying that this is the end-all and be-all of all
I'm
evidence.
not saying that.
I don't think anybody is saying that.
Would you agree that this document has been the basis for all subsequent reporting about, in terms of?
No, it's not.
Well, in terms of subsequent,
there's been a lot of other reporting on Russian cyber attacks on U.S. election systems.
Would you agree it's the only public evidence of an NSA document that attributes this to Russia?
Yeah, that was the significance of the document, and that's why it was published in the Intercept, because it was an important document.
And what I'm saying
I
is,
think what you're arguing is that we should hold back information if we don't think it's complete.
No. Okay, Jim, you're not getting my point. I think the Intercept should have published it, but instead of a headline talking about how this is about Russia hacking into U.S. elections, I think the headline should have been, the NSA itself is unsure of the evidence about Russia hacking the elections, because it's right there on the document.
Well, I think that's your opinion of how the headline should have been written, which is fine. You can write a letter to the editor and complain about the headline.
Well, I'm talking to you now, and you know the distinction on the document because you're familiar with it. The distinction between confirmed information and
I'm not sure what the point of this argument about is, really, frankly. So unless you want to talk about something else, I think I'm done.
Okay, well, I've certainly made my point. I guess one other piece of evidence on this document that I found interesting was that in terms of this spear phishing attempt, which is different, by the way, than hacking as we're normally known as. It's about impersonating someone to try to steal their credentials. The fake emails that the suspected Russian hackers used were to impersonate this company, VR Systems, by the way, which denies that they were ever successfully penetrated. But anyway, it was VRelections@gmail.com. And also no reply automatic service @gmail.com. So the impersonated emails used by these hackers to try to fool VR Systems and then also state.
Yeah.
Yes, at Gmail.
Fucking Gmail account.
In other words, this was perpetrated by an 8-year-old.
Sorry, we interrupt this broadcast with AOS losing laughing at the absurdity of it.
I was joking when I said that we should just out our fucking political espionage to the Chinese, to some 8-year-old Chinese kid. I didn't think they take it seriously. That was meant to be a joke. Hyperbole. That was not meant to be taken seriously. Oh my god, people are so fucking dumb.
Okay, are we ready for the last
Holy
bit?
fuck.
Okay.
Oh, why are adults so
state
fucking
election
stupid? I'm
boards
sorry.
was
Please
using-
don't take this. Please don't take offense to this. Holy fuck! God damn it, you fucking boomers, man! Jesus Christ!
All right, we're ready. Have you
Okay.
gained composure
I think this
again?
is- please let this suffer again, because I think.
I think we have another minute and 20 seconds.
Oh fuck!
Okay.
Fuck me.
Here you go. Here you go.
Using the domain @gmail.com, so which does not seem to be doesn't seem to me to be very sophisticated.
Yeah, okay. So are you one of the people who doesn't believe that there's any evidence that Russia's intervened in the U.S. election?
I'm one of the
Wait, are you one of the people that have noticed that there hasn't been any evidence actually provided?
That's exactly.
people who is skeptical of accepting U.S. intelligence community
Right.
claims without evidence.
Right.
And that's why I think-
Right, who your
That's
boss
a
is,
completely
right?
different debate and discussion than I thought you wanted to have, which is fine, but it's not something I have the time or the interest in pursuing right now. I thought you wanted to talk about why I thought Reality Winner, what she did was a public service.
We agree it was a public service. There's no debate there.
Okay,
and I
very
think
good.
you've articulated that, Jim Risen. Are you still
Okay,
there?
well, good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So let me
I'm
ask you,
here.
Jim, let me ask you also then about the handling of the document itself, because there's been criticism.
Well, I'm not going to get into that. I think we're done. Thanks.
Wow.
Okay.
So that was a thing that happened.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
was the thing that happened.
This is a fucking.
I love that. So you're one of the people that doesn't think there's any evidence?
Oh, the sad part is that I could believe somebody actually fell for that. That's the sad part. I could believe somebody fall for that. Granted, I believe that somebody would probably be over the age of 40. But
Right. Okay. Hang on a second. I'm
Jesus
having
Christ.
Yeah,
an
it's
issue
it's
with
bad.
Oh, that's such a bad look. That's such a bad look on the NSA. And this is a bad look on it. It's a bad look on the state officials too. Who,
And that's their evidence. That's their strongest publicly released evidence to date.
the sad part is that I could believe that somebody would fall for a Gmail account that blatant. That's the sad part.
Yeah, but at I can't remember the name of the company. At a security company like that,
VR Systems, I think.
Yeah, I doubt that.
Wait.
But VR Systems, didn't he say they said that they didn't see anything?
Yeah, they
right?
said that they did.
Actually,
they didn't
oh.
get. They weren't attacked.
So I
Or-
mentioned.
all
They
attacks-
use
all
an
attacks have been-
official Gmail account fucking server. Jesus.
So I've mentioned
Yeah.
this before, and anybody that wants to help me dig in further.
This is like a
Winner.
madcap comedy.
Reality Winner wanted to subpoena DHS, all the states that they said were scanned, because that's their evidence. And then this list of cybersecurity companies: Trend Micro, FireEye Intel, Asset, CrowdStrike, we all know that one, Velexity, F-Secure, Threat Connect, Motherboard, SecureWorks, and Fidelis Cyber. So I wonder why she wanted to. And
I can guess. I have a pretty good idea of why.
Okay.
Because these were the companies that were involved with safeguarding the servers, the election servers. These were the companies that provided antivirus and threat protection to these servers. So she would subpoena them to find out if they saw anything that looked like an attack. They would be the ones to know because they were doing, the protection work. So if they come back and say, well, the only people we saw was DHS, holy shit.
Like Brian Kemp in Georgia.
Yeah, we've got nothing. You guys just got hacked.
Now, I have heard some election security, integrity experts that I respect not have a lot of great things to say about Brian Kemp in Georgia. But whatever, I don't know, that might be on a separate issue. It was Georgia, and Brian Kemp and whoever his people that worked on the cybersecurity stuff that said, no, we never saw any Russians in our system. We saw DHS. And if you look at the dates, they were all like, right before and after the primary, and then at these key times.
Right.
So it's interesting, but I think that the investigative work that needs to be done, and I've been meaning to do it, but I've just, between all the other stuff we're doing, it's slow going. But I think it would be interesting to find out which of these IT or these security companies have contracts, like with which states, and if you could find out, if anybody could dig in and find out information about, I don't know if you could contact anyone that works within those security companies if they would talk. I don't know. But something is there. I think there's some kind of clue there in that. But let's see. I wanted to share this other. So like I said, I'm not going to kill you with C-SPAN clips again tonight. But there was this one that I found. And this is from July... wait a second. July 11th. So not that long ago. And just one sec. I have to transfer it over. And I'm going to play this if I can get the share screen to work again. And again, listen very carefully to what is asked of him, of Krebs, and how he responds.
Got it.
I don't remember. Brian, did you see this one yet? I can't remember.
I
don't
think so.
I shared it out yet. I might have put it on one Twitter feed.
Okay.
Hang on. Sorry about the delay. I'm just having to move from one computer to the other here. Okay. Okay. One sec. So this is July 11th, election security hearings with somebody in Mississippi asking, I think a congressperson in Mississippi asking Christopher Krebs of DHS an important question. Okay, let me see if I can get this right again with the sharing of the screen. Hopefully this works. All right. You guys can help me out here with whatever shows up on YouTube. I don't really know.
Yep, you got it. I'm monitoring
here. Am I? Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't seem right. Hang on.
Yeah, I think you got it.
I wish I could just do it from the other. Now it's showing that. That's not right. Hang on. Nope. Damn it. Sorry. All right, one more time. Let me try.
There you go.
Okay. Is that really working?
It was.
All right. Let's try. No, because now it's got candidates
Yeah,
contract up.
That was weird. I saw it coming down over it, and then it just
Bizarre.
faded out.
I don't know what's happening here with this. Okay, wait. There it is. Sorry. I've got 3 screens. It's a little confusing. All right. This should work.
Recognize the ranking member.
Yeah, there you go.
I agree with you, because we've been in some hearings, some briefings, who really laid out some kind of scary scenarios. Well, you're official now, Mr. Krebs. Welcome. Just from a historical standpoint, how many states have we identified that the Russians did some form of intrusion in the last elections?
So when we think back to 2016, there are a couple ways we have to kind of hash out the information, and it's all based on, frankly, awareness, visibility into activity and infrastructure. So we've thrown around numbers. 18 were either accessed or scanned or targeted, or 21, whatever it is. Last summer we gave 21. That number of 21 that were scanned, that information is based.
Does everybody remember the other clip where he says scanning is routine and
Right.
Okay,
Yep.
it gets even better here.
Based on the telemetry, the visibility into traffic over networks that we had frankly that we had visibility to last year. If you were to ask me what I really thought happened, I would suspect, and Jeanette, Assistant Secretary Manfred said this, I believe Secretary Nielsen said this too, I would suspect that the Russians probably scanned all 50 states and 5 territories and the District of Columbia. Scanning. It happens every day. It's an automated process. I think based on the 21 number, that's on what we were able to see. We have better visibility going into 18. We basically will have access to close to 50% of 100% visibility into at least this.
Okay, that's my clip. Hang on.
Wait a minute.
Do I need to replay it?
No. So, okay. Holy crap. So what the first guy is asking about his fears of Russians hacking into our election systems, and you've got Krebs who comes back with, well, we threw out a number of 21 last summer, but it's probably actually all 50 states. You're conflating 2 entirely different things here.
Wait, so
scanning is not hacking. Scanning is something he says himself goes on every fucking day. We're not talking about scanning. We're talking about hacking. He's conflating.
He never answers the question.
Entirely different things.
Yeah. Oops.
Okay, wait a minute.
Holy crap!
Like, even if that were true, let's just say for a second that was true. That would also mean that you left a giant fucking hole the size of the entire fucking United States wide open for a cyber attack.
Right.
And you guys are supposed to be the people in charge of making sure those holes don't happen.
I am amazed.
I don't see how this looks good in either scenario.
No, that's an excellent point.
I'm just baffled.
This looks bad.
I'm baffled with this Krebs guy at this point. I've listened to enough of his answers where he is just stuttering. He's all over the place. He's like, in the District of Columbia. He's just... If you just had someone analyze his...
to be fair, like, I mean, you guys have known me long enough to know that I have a bit of a stuttering problem myself. So, I don't want that to be like seen as like the basis of.
No. It's a distraction. I feel like he's doing it. He's really trying to fuddle the answers and create this where the person that asked the question, I mean, why did Aaron Mate, holds to it when James Risen is dodging things. But it's hard to do that when you ask a question, and it's a politician usually answering in this way where they start talking around the whole, the question. But I feel like it's a purposeful, just dodging the question. And I don't know. Or there are a bunch of other clips where he does trip up on his words, and I'm not picking on anybody that stutters. To me, it seems like he is really nervous, and I don't know. That's just my.
To be fair, how many of us would be feeling a bit fucking nervous standing in front of a bunch of congressmen and ready to stick political knives in your back?
I guess so, but it's more about his answers, really. But so, yeah. I mean, I think. Let's see. That was the.
I'll be right back. I'm just gonna get some water.
Sure. Okay. Actually, I've never noticed you stuttering. Come to think of it, Aeolus. But anyway, no, I'm not picking on anybody stuttering. But let's see. There was the other. What was the one? I think it was in that first one that I played. I won't replay it again, but it was the one where William Lacey Clay asks him why they haven't, given the information that they've been asking for, and he's kind of like, I promise, and I'll get back to you on that, and he's just, to me, fumbling, and it's just weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know how their answer, so they're not giving this committee the proof that they've been asking for since October.
Right.
Of the Russian hacking, and some of them are clearly very annoyed with him at this point. And one guy points out that this all hell would have Connolly, all hell would have broken loose. Okay, maybe I didn't. Did I share that one?
I think you did.
Connolly. Okay. Well, anyway, and he said he points out that in the previous administration that if this had happened. Or this
they would have been holding the same person in contempt.
Right,
if this was anybody else under any other administration, Krebs would have been held in contempt.
Right, that's what he said. Thank you, Brian.
So nuts.
I don't understand. So the whole only evidence that we have seen anywhere of Russian hacking is supposedly that document that Reality Winner leaked. And we see that is in fact not really evidence. And then
it's an analyst's interpretation of the evidence, which isn't evidence at all.
No. And then we have Krebs.
Again, I'm going to make this point real quick. As far as we know, the analyst that they're talking about is from, for all we know. And if that analyst is from CrowdStrike, we already know that they're compromised. They had an agenda that was anti-Russian from the beginning. Mm-hmm. So if they're the anti, it's all bullshit.
Yeah, good point. And then we have, with the only other evidence that they're giving, that Krebs is giving in these election hearings, is that all he does is refer to the scanning. And then in the same answers, on a couple of occasions, he admits that the scanning isn't anything.
It's nothing. Happens every day.
And then he just
Which means that he's trying to play both sides of the fence.
Right. And then he just starts talking about the sowing disinformation. It's earlier in this. I didn't make more clips yet of this. It's another couple hours. So, but there's a part earlier on where he does that. He just sort of dodges it and starts talking about the disinformation campaign and sowing discord, really, with ads.
I wonder if, the definition of irony has no implication to himself.
I don't think the our intelligence agencies have an irony department, unfortunately.
All right. Snork, you've been silent. I'm really curious what you have to say about watching those two.
Fuck.
What's your take?
Well, I mean, they're getting paid to try to get a story out.
Right.
actually being confusing might be on purpose, trying to hide something else.
Could very well be.
Keep them answering the question. Like John F. Kennedy was non-religious. He didn't want that to come up after the McCarthy era.
Right.
So he was really happy to answer any questions and throw any kind of argument at all if he was Catholic.
Right.
Completely diverted away from the questions he didn't want to have asked at that period of time.
Right.
He goes, I will not let my Catholic, get in the way. And of course, everybody focused on that. And
wait, was Kennedy an atheist?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
He faked being a Catholic.
Yeah, he was an
His
atheist.
family was.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, his family's of Irish descent, isn't it?
Yeah, and they use that as blowing away all the probability.
Right.
But in 1960, you could not have become a president.
No, as an atheist, no way in hell. Even now, it would be difficult.
Yeah. All the presidents we've had who were atheists had to hide it at the time.
Except for our founding fathers for reasons. Well, okay,
No,
that's not.
they claim to be.
They were deists.
They were deists. They claim to be deists, which kind of skirts the question.
Very fine line.
Yeah,
But
very
also,
fine line.
like Lincoln had somebody add religious stuff into his speeches for him. So
That's
that,
not surprising.
And even Washington, whatever, they always included religious speech to allay the doubts. Yeah.
But what do you think about the evidence or lack of evidence or the providing the scanning as an answer? What do you think?
I mean, I used to pay people to help them with the nightly scans by Google. It used to be called Tickling the Spiders. The Google program was called Spiders that would go out every night and hit every website they could find. So it was constantly going out there looking, reading a whole site. That's scanning. This is all normal behavior on the internet.
Right.
You put the stuff out there for the world to see.
So, okay, go ahead.
So what really is we need some laws to help us on this. Obviously, no matter what they say, our government is massively storing data from all of our transmissions.
Yes.
Everything is open to them. I wouldn't guess any level of encryption is good. So if they do not have records to prove this, I think they should be fired, and that is the route we should be going for. We know you have the evidence, and if you don't have it, you're being irresponsible. You're not capable of doing your job. You're out. So, do you have the evidence, or do you want to show it to us?
Right.
And I think that at some point there is an obligation to not allow us to go to war off of something that's made up. That these people should be, and luckily we've had a few who have thought that they need to release the data rather than let the world go to war. So, in this case, I don't buy anything he's saying. I personally think that as soon as it came up, was it Russian hacking or not, the NSA should have said yes or no. Not made up stories. They should have said who, when, where, and how.
Right.
And it should have been immediate.
So, I think I know I am, and maybe I don't want to speak for everyone, but I'm a skeptic anyway that there is even any Russian hacking. But another possibility is that, okay, sure, there was, but they can't reveal the proof because it would reveal other things, of, like you said, what all they're actually collecting or other secrets of how things are done or whatever. So that's why.
And Russia is not going to leave a flare pointing back to them.
Right.
If they did any hacking, they would be doing it local. They wouldn't be doing it across transatlantic lines.
With Gmail accounts.
Yes, none of that. You know, they would be using the least traceable methods possible. And so, not when we have 26 agencies reading every tweet, everything we do. We can't have this. And so there should be 26 agencies out there to corroborate this data if there was hacking.
I just can't believe we're 2 years into this, and it's, I mean, thank you, Aaron Mate, for you know, doing this.
Yeah, that was great.
How is it that we are 2 years into this? And I mean, I've watched since the Reality Winner story broke, people repeating over and over and over again that she revealed the Russian hacking when that was never true. It's not, there's no proof of that. And I don't understand this day and age how that has just continued to be spread around as fact when somebody should have caught that.
Because it worked two ways, and we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
It worked on two levels. It worked on the one level that it allowed the mainstream media to continue reporting a false narrative, and what it also did is it kept people on the right from really talking about Reality Winner because they were afraid that maybe there was actually something there, so they didn't really cover it too much.
Or those of us wherever we are on the left
Right.
that are skeptical of it to look any closer.
We're going to look too closely because, you know, maybe there is something there, and we didn't really want to cover that either. So it kept her pretty much completely out of being discussed.
Yeah, that right there is key, I think.
Yep.
Because I haven't seen independent media cover this. I found that one video that was about, not about her case specifically, but about the Russian hacking and about how Georgia saw DHS in the system and the kind of speculation that maybe that's really what was found. But that was on InfoWars by somebody, not Alex Jones, and it had been removed. And I had to use DuckDuckGo to even, and it was like on the 8th page. If you just start Googling for, like, I don't know, variations, like you'll find, if you look for DHS in Georgia's system, you'll find a CyberScoop article where Brian Kemp reports that. But you really have to dig. You really have to dig and use other search engines. Yeah, like DuckDuckGo or something. But I just can't believe that nobody's been on this story. So I'm glad Aaron Mate did that. And I think he said he was going to follow up on more, or at least comment more on that interview with James Risen. The way he just is like, okay, I'm done here.
Wow.
And how does who cares what he thinks? I mean, really, it's irrelevant what he thinks. And we talked about this, the use of, you know, these terms on an evidentiary basis. That's not the same as evidence.
No.
It's I don't know. I guess the general public, I hate to say, is not smart enough to figure that out or too trusting. As you guys know, I hang out with a Russian on a regular basis. My friend Maria, who's been here since she's my age, she's been here for like 25 years. And she was telling me last night that one of the things that really continues to shock her, she said, I was fed bullshit, as she says it, since she was in like grade school. And she's like, I know how to recognize propaganda. And I couldn't believe when I moved to the U.S. and would see how people would believe these ads and stuff. Like, she was kind of trained growing up in Russia that, like, that's always going on and you don't buy it. And she's like, Americans are just so gullible.
Right.
And I was like, yeah. So.
Well, the thing is, too, with somebody like James Risen, who has a history of being a kind of a thorn in the side of the intelligence community, I mean, imagine how much of a liability he would be to them right now if he was following Aaron Mate's view on this. he might be in a situation that he would really not want to have publicized. It could get ugly. I mean, we know the kinds of things that they have done in the past to people to kind of shut them up.
Vault
So,
7.
yeah, it could be pretty dangerous.
Well, did anybody see the James Risen and Glenn Greenwald? I think Jeremy Scahill was there too. Like Glenn Greenwald was on camera and then, or on long distance, and it was Jeremy Scahill and James Risen, and they had a big argument about the whole Russiagate thing, and that was at that point where James Risen really, I don't know, it just seemed like he was not following facts. He just all of a sudden sounded, like he should be on Rachel Maddow's show. So I don't know. How do you explain it?
I think somebody had to talk with him. That's how I explain it.
Is it possible? Okay, so I'm a huge skeptic of that there is even any evidence, but the other possibility that there is, but they can't reveal it because it would reveal other things. Is it possible then some of these journalists have been pulled aside and said, yeah, like there is real evidence, but you can't reveal it, or you know what I mean? Like,
who knows what story they're being given at this point? I mean, they're not being very honest in their reporting to begin with.
Well, what reporters have died lately?
The last one I know of is Ed Schultz. He's the last one I can think of.
And what was Ed Schultz reporting about this?
Well, he's a Russiagate skeptic. I mean,
yeah, he was a big skeptic. He didn't buy it.
Yeah,
he was also a big Bernie supporter. So there's that too.
I think the biggest case that to me really, I mean, when it happened, and I wasn't even paying nearly as much attention to anything as I do now, but was Michael Hastings. You know, that was really kind of odd, because as you guys know that story.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I think.
The Hastings story I'm not as familiar with. I have to be
So he basically took down McChrystal, was it? I mean, he revealed a lot of. I don't remember. I think it was in the Rolling Stone. Was he writing for the Rolling Stone at that point? And he was in Iraq, and he reported all kinds of stuff. I don't remember all the details, but anyway, the story was that he was working on something else that was going to kind of whistleblow stuff on the Obama administration, and he was also in touch with one of the WikiLeaks attorneys. I don't remember which one, and he got increasingly like paranoid, and then all of a sudden his car drives into a tree and blows up, and he's dead. So that one I thought was, you just kind of go, huh? It's just, I don't know.
Well, maybe they thought that 2 bullets in the back of the head would be a little too suspicious.
Maybe. I mean, it's these things seem so far-fetched until you start really digging in and reading. And then,
it's really bizarre. It's really, really bizarre.
Yeah. You have to wonder.
Mm.
I mean, I think it's not crazy to, I don't really care if I get labeled that some on the right think these things. I mean, to me, it's not crazy to wonder about it because of what he exposed. And, I mean, you can read more about him, but there's a really great article. I think it's about like 4 or 5 pages long. Maybe I'll post it under the YouTube thing here. Yeah, I think I'll do that. I always say I'm going to do that, and I don't. Hang on. But it talks about like the story he was working on. Well, here's one on Mint Press. That's newer. Was Michael Hastings targeted by the CIA? WikiLeaks reveals agency's covert carjacking ability. So yeah, Vault 7. Let's see. Okay, so Hastings gained infamy for his 2010 profile on General Stanley McChrystal, the commander of NATO forces in Afghanistan, an award-winning piece that ultimately led to McChrystal being relieved of his command. Immediately prior to his death, Hastings had published a strong critique of the Obama administration titled "Why Democrats Love to Spy on Americans," which exposed the party's hypocrisy regarding some of the civil liberty overreaches. And then, let's see. Some local San Diego news reported that Hastings had been investigating CIA Director John Brennan for an upcoming expose prior to the crash. Hastings' behavior at the time also aroused suspicion. About 12 hours before his death, Hastings had sent an email to his colleagues that the FBI had been interviewing his close friends and associates and told his co-workers it may be wise to immediately request legal counsel before any conversations or interviews about our news gathering practices or related journalism issues. He added, "I'm on to a big story and need to go off the radar for a bit." A neighbor said he'd been acting erratically. Oh, okay, yeah, it was Jennifer Robinson. He had also contacted WikiLeaks lawyer Jennifer Robinson just a few hours before he died, saying that the FBI was investigating him.
Wow.
So, anybody that says it's crazy to kind of wonder, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. He sought to expose covert hacking. Anyway, I'll post this. It's a Mint Press article, but there are several other good ones, I think, in the Rolling Stone. Let's see. All right, here's this one. Okay. Yeah, okay. Rolling Stone article is good too.
Another thing is it might be possible for somebody to give away a hacking device, to let it fall into somebody else's hands to make it look like they did it. And
Right.
hijack the signal because you know their MAC address.
Right.
Oh, he also, I forgot about this. He had interviewed Julian Assange in 2012. Right, I forgot about that. Yeah, and he talked a lot about, Obama's love of drones. Lots of controversial stuff. So, anyway. Yeah, I remember at some point I don't remember which clip it was, somewhere in the election security hearings, Krebs refers to Brennan, like as, their meeting with him and I don't know, like his, whatever evidence he presented, and I was thinking, Brennan? Really? Okay, we're supposed to trust that?
Right.
Okay. I don't know. So much of this stuff is still in the dark, unfortunately. So, you've only got a couple of journalists that are willing to stick their necks out, I guess, and talk about it.
Yeah.
Thank you to the Real News Network. Aaron Mate and Max Blumenthal do a great job. So, anybody else on? We can.
I'm trying to think of who else would have been killed lately. I know that.
I feel like those are the big ones.
Well, Michael Hastings was what? What did I just say? 2010? 2011? Anyway. Let's see. 4 years ago. So I think it was 2013. Anyway, okay. Who else? Yeah, I don't know.
But I can't think of anybody else that's involved with the hacking issue.
Right. I don't.
No, neither can I.
No, the reporter that reported on the U.S. importing ISIS, providing the transportation for ISIS into Syria, that reporter died 2 days later.
Oh, right.
Jeez.
I don't know. Oh, the other thing we should talk about, I don't think there was any video of it, though, was Randy Credico talking to Mueller. Actually, I should check. I just haven't had time. That was just yesterday, so if anybody heard about that.
I heard about it, but I haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah. Senate Intelligence Committee wants to grill Roger Stone's alleged WikiLeaks connection. Credico says he'll reject the panel's request. Let's see. Okay. Voluntary interview and to turn over his communications with Stone. Credico testified about his relationship with Stone before a grand jury who obtained. Okay. I mean, I think he's said what he's always said, which is that he's known him, but it was like through whatever, whatever radio interviews and whatnot. So everybody, I don't know if you know the story that Stone claimed that Credico was his only source of information about Assange's plans to release hacked Democratic emails, which Randy denies. Well, anyway, I don't know everything about it, so I guess we can go on to something else. Any big other headlines? Anybody's, or any articles, AOS, you want to dissect? Anything like that? AOS.
I don't think Aeolus is listening.
Well, he's awake. Hello. All right.
And he's not on delay.
No. It's okay. Well, Twitter is ridiculous now. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, the trending stuff that's trending is stupid. It's usually sports stuff or some celebrity junk. I don't really know why I'm still on here. But anyway, oh, that's interesting. We can talk about this. I just happened to see Christine Assange retweeted. Everybody know about the FBI Director Mueller? This was back in 2011 when Mueller sent a plane load of FBI agents to frame Assange and Iceland kicked them out. Everybody know about
no
that?
shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Who was the, what do you call him? Prime Minister then, I think? Hang on. Yeah, I like this story. But yeah, they basically said no. Iceland said no.
What is it with Mueller? He seems to be the guy who's always in the right place at the right time with the wrong thing to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, this is an old story, but I guess it gets recirculated. I'm not going to try to pronounce that. Something Jonasson, former Icelandic minister, claims the U.S. sent plane load of FBI agents to frame Julian Assange during mission to the country in 2011. He claims the FBI sought Iceland's cooperation to frame him in WikiLeaks, and he promptly kicked them out of Iceland.
Yes, just. But we're the good guys. We're totally the good guys, everyone.
Right.
Right.
Let's see. Why exactly is this being retweeted now? Maybe just things from WikiLeaks get recirculated. Let's see. I wonder why this is. George Papadopoulos gets 2 weeks jail for lying to the FBI, but it's okay for the FBI to lie about my son. Hashtag Mueller, Russiagate, and WikiLeaks. Okay, and she links that about Mueller, about the FBI and Iceland. Interesting. Yeah, it's been how many days now without internet? 160 or something? Terrible,
it just
like
flies
that.
by.
It
just flies by. And now summer's almost gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the end of March, wasn't it? I think it was the end of March. Yeah, I don't know how this can go on. I mean, obviously they're just trying to break him.
Yeah.
And that long of isolation is not good. I mean, hopefully he's doing lots of reading.
Isn't.
But, yeah. So I guess there was that 2 weekends ago they did another, no, it was last Saturday. They did another live stream, Unity for Julian, and they kind of changed up the format. But I think it's really interesting the way they're doing it, because they had like what's his name, Ellsberg? Like somebody was interviewing, a guy from Consortium News interviewed Ellsberg, and then Ellsberg interviewed the next person or something. They're kind of passing it on like that. But he was the one that I think revealed the Pentagon Papers. Anybody correct me if I'm wrong. So I don't know when the next one is, but we should keep up with that.
Yeah.
I guess that's all that can really be done. It's very disturbing to me that how few people, and it could be Twitter, I'm sure, messing with numbers and stuff, but like when you see these,
of course it could be.
they're not enough retweets of it or enough views. You know, when you see this and you've got, you know, like when I came in, I saw what's his name, from Joe Loria, I think, from Consortium News, interviewing Daniel Ellsberg, and there are like 74 people watching. It's like, how is that possible? Only 74 people are watching this? I don't know.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous.
Maybe only 74 people care.
Yeah, that's... And it's been so long since I've seen cable news, which, you know, I'm
still having the same problem with Andrew Yang. I don't think CNN or MSNBC has admitted he's even running.
Just black.
I mentioned Andrew this morning in Uphill Media's chat, and there were only a few people who even knew who he was. And I'm like, you guys have got to keep an eye on this guy. We probably might need to get Uphill to talk to people, because he's being completely blacked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they already tried with Bernie. They know that belittling him didn't help.
No.
So they need a complete blackout. Also, Delaney. Have you heard of the candidate Delaney yet?
No, I haven't.
Also, news blackout.
Okay.
We talked to a great candidate just the other night, Mindy Mesmer in New Hampshire, and she, of course, said she's experiencing the same thing. Total blackout from the media.
John Delaney?
Yeah.
Okay.
How much have you heard about him lately?
I haven't heard anything. I'm just finding out about him now.
Yep. He's been like hardly any mention at all.
Out of Maryland.
Yeah. And when I saw him here in Iowa, he almost 1-to-1 with Andrew Yang. It would be an excellent vice president for Andrew Yang.
Okay.
Oh, we have, so next week is New Hampshire and Rhode Island primaries. That was interesting. When I was watching the election security hearings, they had, I think it was the Secretary of State from Rhode Island there, and they're talking about all these issues with election security. And I'm thinking to myself, why aren't they talking about all that happened in Rhode Island? Do you guys remember where they were like, they didn't have enough polling places or enough places open? I can't remember all the details and who was responsible, but they're sure not talking about that. They're just sitting there talking about scanning and not the real, voter suppression that kept people from being able to vote. It's just, disgusting to watch it. And that, that, whatever her name was from Rhode Island, didn't say a word about any of that, of course. So, let's see. Let me see what happened exactly there. I mean, it seems to me that should have been what was discussed. Like that clip I played where the guy from Michigan was saying, why aren't you guys sending people here to train workers and stuff? These are the real problems that are interfering with elections.
We did it.
Did what, Aeolus? Yeah.
Sorry.
Hello?
Huh?
That was an obvious boss battle.
It's all right, Aeolus.
Sorry, I was watching something.
We figured that out because we
is
tried
that
talking to you
interesting,
earlier, and you weren't paying any attention.
Sorry.
Oh, here it was. Okay, so Rhode Island opened 1/3 of its polling locations for the primary
1/3
in 2016. So, that seems to me that should have been kind of an issue when they were having these hearings, right? Of like the real problems with...
No, instead it's Russia, Russia, Russia.
And scanning that means nothing.
And
everything at the same time.
Yo, dog, I heard you like Russians.
Yes, all I do is hang out with Russians.
My guess
in
is
North
that
Carolina.
The only polling places that weren't affected by the cutback were Hillary zones. Only the Bernie voting zones probably lost their voting places.
Right, of course.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of awkward.
Yeah, they know how to rig the game. They've been doing it for a while.
Yep.
Although I bet they feel a bit awkward about it now.
So anyway,
no, like it's like God. It would have been really great if we hadn't, nuked all of them. Could have been really useful.
Well, it's what the Democratic Party does is shoot themselves in the foot. They're pretty good at it.
This is about the only thing they're good at.
Unfortunately.
So I reported a promoted Kamala Harris tweet as an influence campaign, and to Twitter. I said, "Get this off my timeline. I'm not following her." And I would just say the same thing if it was a Ted Cruz, or somebody like that tweet. But I was like, why is this here? I'm not following her. Oh, it's a promotion. And I just thought, okay. How is that not, trying to sow discord with identity politics and an influence campaign.
Because it's their anointed candidate
reasons.
that's being advertised.
Right.
Because reasons.
Reasons.
Well,
I mean, my gut instinct is to say because fuck you, that's why. But
yeah, that's pretty much it.
I just feel like that come across as a bit crass.
You think?
You've been known to say a few things like that lately.
I don't mean for it to be what I'm known for.
That's quite all right. It's after midnight.
We appreciated it always.
Right.
I just am not one to mince my words. I think that's
We've noticed that.
That's good. That's what we're all about. We're not blowing smoke here, are we?
Trying not to, at least.
So, what are you going to be? Did you say you were going to be seeing the candidate Andrew Yang again soon, Snork? Or
Yeah, probably in 2 weeks.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Cool. Well, I mean, if he's getting that much of a following, they can't ignore him forever. I mean,
Yeah.
they'll try, but yeah.
Well, what's happening is that he's getting a following amongst the former volunteer group.
Ah, that's a good sign.
The key
That's a very good
people that he needs to win. That doesn't mean he'll get the nomination, but it means that we're looking at a possible even bigger rift than it was with the Hillary versus Bernie.
Oh, we could end up
That's
at
like
a real
I mean,
dumpster fire come to
yeah.
convention.
Oh, I
I
know.
mean, I bet that's gonna suck for them. Not so much for us. For us, this is gonna be wonderful. Them, this is gonna be a very long and very awkward.
I know something we can discuss. I know everybody probably heard this before, and it's not a new story, but it's on the World Socialist website. I love this site. The CIA Democrats, basically how many candidates in the Democratic Party are. One is Alyssa Slotkin, a former CIA operative with 3 tours in Iraq, who worked as an Iraq director for the National Security Council. Anyway, she's running for something in Michigan. 8th Congressional District of Michigan, which, Trump won. I just think it's very interesting. Like, we need to memorize who all these CIA Democrats are. I'm sure they're not signing CFAR and CWAC.
Well, there's only 60 of them.
Is it 60?
I can't remember how many it is.
Let's see. An extraordinary number. Oh, that doesn't help. Let's see.
It's at least 31.
Let's see. This article was from March, so there could be updates. I don't know if it was in this article or another one I found sort of while I was looking at this stuff about the CIA people working in academia too, like in colleges.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, how do you find out who those are? I could never really find a list or anything, but let's see. Candidates from a military intelligence background are seeking the Democratic Party nomination in 40% of the congressional districts targeted by the DCCC. Go figure. They make up the largest single occupational group running in the Democratic primaries. If the Democratic military intelligence candidates won all 44 of the district, 44 of them, at least this is from March, so I guess that's current, which is theoretically possible if very likely they would constitute as a bloc 10% of the membership of the House of Representatives. We have let's see, the final category. Okay, from the State Department to Capitol Hill. Okay, here it lists several. We should map all these out. Aaron Scheinberg, Douglas Applegate, Sarah Jacobs, she was a foreign policy advisor to the Clinton campaign, California's 49th district, where Darrell Issa is retiring.
Oh, that fucker's leaving?
Yeah, he's finally retiring.
But is it
Oh,
is it an
thank
improvement to have this CIA Democrat in his place?
No.
No, not really, but let me have this one.
Okay.
Let me have this
Darrell Issa
one.
is a piece of shit, but to replace him with the CIA Democrat, that's not too smart.
Let me have this one, man.
On the other hand, he's probably guaranteed to win.
Mm-hmm.
It would be interesting to see what portion win.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, several are in very red districts.
Yeah, and I bet a lot of them will win with 140% of the vote.
Let's see, we've got a Virginia's 2nd district. Elaine Luria. Wow. Yeah, these are all military. Amy McGrath, Kentucky's 6th district, against incumbent Republican Andy Barr. Yeah, they seem to be really up in red districts. I guess maybe they, being military, they have a shot. I don't know. So yeah, we should really map all these out, Brian, for our
Okay, I
see
was
where
terrified when I wasn't able to hear anybody.
do what?
I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit worried when I didn't hear anybody. I thought my internet had
Oh
crashed.
no, we're just having dead air here. Let's see, the upper middle class.
God, that's the only thing we're having.
Here, I'll just read then. Okay. The upper middle, this is still about the CIA Democrats. The upper middle class layer that provides the mass base of the Democratic Party has moved drastically to the right over the past 4 decades. Enriched by the stock market boom, consciously hostile to the working class, and enthusiastically supportive of the military intelligence apparatus, which in the final analysis guarantees its own social position against potential threats, both foreign and domestic. It is this social evolution that now finds expression on the surface of capitalist politics in the rise of the military intelligence faction to the leadership of the Democratic Party. Wow. I thought that was Republican.
It was past tense.
Yeah, and why is it taking so many people so long to wake up to that fact?
Well, because one of the issues that we have currently is that this is a war economy. I mean, our economy is driven largely by the fact that we are engaged in all of these foreign conflicts. And, people, I think, at least subconsciously realize that, if we start, an actual anti-war movement, it could end up hurting their livelihood.
Well, yeah, like candidate Brian Witt said, he was kind of clear to not criticize everyone that works at Lockheed Martin, for example. I mean, there are people that work these jobs, or Brian, you used to work at Wells Fargo. Not that that's military, but that's evil banking. That whatever the story was. What was that story with Wells Fargo? There was all that fraud, and they just were bailed out.
Well,
right?
they were opening lines of credit for people without their knowledge, and they were
But they just kind of got a slap
they were
on the wrist.
foreclosing. They were foreclosing on houses before it was legal to do so. There were a myriad of things that they were doing that was clearly illegal.
Yeah, but it's just our economy. I mean, people work in these industries. What are you gonna do?
Yep. And now I work for a real estate company.
That's better.
Better, but at the same time, I still think it's absolutely absurd to own a piece of land. That to me just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Well, owning a house.
Well, I'm just saying land should belong to everybody.
Who was talking about that recently? What was that?
Yeah. Well, that's why I was bringing up. I do not think that somebody should be able to own something and totally mine it out.
Oh, right. That was you saying that.
I think that that owning a property is fine for temporary ownership, like during your lifetime.
Right.
But I think that when you leave it, it has to be in the condition you found it.
Exactly.
So if you mine stuff out, you
should pay the government for it, and the government should in turn turn that money over to its citizens. It's part of, I completely agree. I'm 100% on board with that.
And that's not just for oil or gold.
No, it's for anything. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, because the largest thing that's mined is sand.
That's not surprising.
Sand and gravel. I mean, just tons of it are mined in every day.
Yeah.
There should be a cost attributed to it. Water.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no question.
I don't consider water extraction any different than I do mining.
Yep, I completely agree.
At some point, I almost consider water a mineral. I mean, it can form a rock.
Yeah.
So,
good point.
So basically, if it's extracted, it's part of the national wealth, and that gallon of water, it might come from that hole, but it came from the whole aquifer, or it came from the whole river.
Right.
There's no way that you could say that this is mine. In Oregon, it's not legal for you to capture your own water. If water drips off your house.
So why should a corporation be able to do that? It's absurd. That makes no sense. Yeah, I find the absurdity with that too. It's crazy.
Oh, like Nestle bottling water? Is that what you're talking about? Water?
Yeah.
Nestle's one company, but yeah, just that concept is just ridiculous. If people can't, contain their own rainwater, why should a corporation be able to do that? That just doesn't make sense.
Not only can they do it, but they have priority over the other people.
And that makes even less sense.
You got people.
I don't know why you guys are so hostile to corporations taking over our water supply. Don't you love Aquafina?
Aquafina's not that bad.
It's a concept that we're not able to capture our own water, but we've got corporations that have priority to do it, and then they charge us for what should essentially be ours in the first place. It makes no logical sense.
No. I also remember, if they're purifying it by RO, which they probably are, except for what's marked spring water, that's got all the feces still in it. Yep. So if it's purified water, that means that for the 1 quart you have, that they've blown 4 quarts down the pipeline.
Yep.
To with the waste.
Yep.
So that other 4 quarts could be going out to agriculture or whatever, but I doubt it is.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah, it's pretty wasteful. And then you take into account the practice of fracking, which just wastes ridiculous amounts of water, and then at the same time ends up polluting our groundwater. I mean, it's just that makes.
Well, I still never hear it come up about the taggets. Radioactive iodine. Now, that's only persists in the environment for, I think, 80 days, 90 days, something like that. But still, I'm very concerned about, if they're using that to see if that comes back in the water, they're able to read it by its radioactivity.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't sound good to me.
No, it doesn't.
And I only hear people talking about the issues, and now a lot of concern with the extra earthquakes from the
fracking. Yep.
And then there's this huge fracking operation in Eastern California that they've now discovered has 240 cubic miles of magma underneath it. And
that's it, just 240?
Yes. And it is in the category of the newest found super volcano.
Oh, shit. Like we didn't have enough problems.
And it has been active lately.
Oh, like Yellowstone, huh?
Well, no, Yellowstone just has geysers. This has put out some puffs, smoke.
So.
Oh, that's really not good.
It would have been good if you had been on with us with this candidate in New Hampshire. Sorry to.
I was walking home.
I heard. Yeah. Well, I heard your car broke down.
Sorry to hear that, Smart.
At least it didn't, break down on my trip. So I suspect I have a bad battery.
Oh. How far did you have to walk?
Oh, I had to walk all the way across town. 0.7 of a mile.
Well, at least it wasn't winter.
Terrible.
At least it wasn't winter.
No, yeah, at least it wasn't winter. It was a perfect night. It was like 70 degrees.
That's not bad.
Didn't need a coat. Didn't have to sweat. And it was just, by the time I got back and I already saw that it was over.
Yeah, she was great though, and she is a scientist who studies cancer clusters, from all the environmental hazards, all the dumping that defense companies have done in New Hampshire. And she was talking about, I guess New Hampshire has the highest rate of childhood cancers from various, landfills and all kinds of things up there.
Yeah.
This is all across the country.
Yeah.
And it's one of the major things that I think we need to be doing is we need to go back and revisit every dump in the country. Every dump that's been discontinued.
It was interesting what she was explaining about that, like how it couldn't get cleaned up because it was like partly owned by the city, right? Partly publicly owned and partly private.
Really convoluted. Really.
Yeah, those issues need to be bypassed. And I'm totally for the UBI, but I'm also for we do have to have some work done. And I would like to see kids get out of high school 2 years, cleaning the country, cleaning the world. Some type of service like that. If they want to go in the Army, let them go in the Army after that. But we definitely need people out there doing public good, and anybody that needs work. I don't care what time of the life they are, not just 2 years after school. Anybody that needs work should be helping clean up the old dumps. And we should be looking through every dump. We need to find all the old transistors. We need to find all the old circuit boards for TVs. We got to find the TVs, get all that stuff. And we need to have a national recycling program to safely go back and get this stuff out of the environment. It's not done leaching into the environment yet.
Right.
Some of these things like gallium and stuff, we have a limited supply. And the world's largest mine is no longer in the ground. It's in our dumps. Because we used to make huge transistors in the 50s and 60s and 70s. And what we could recover from that era might be millions
It would be a hazard for the people cleaning it up, but I mean, at least you could, prepare for that and with
Right.
whatever
Yeah,
hazmat suits and all that.
there would be jobs just
yeah.
Making sure they can keep safe.
Mm-hmm.
Is it might be a really good job for people directing drones. Drones don't have a nose; they can go right into whatever the icky is there.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, imagine that instead of more, military intervention overseas, we could
That is the way to get
clean stuff up here.
Yeah, the military complex. The only way for us to get them to work for us is to give them work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If we say that, hey, do you want to build 2 carriers for just $1 trillion, or would you like to build 150 facilities for a total of maybe 15 trillion?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I bet they're going to say, hey, we'll take the 15 trillion.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because the technologies that we need are the same technologies that you'd use to build a bulldozer with a tank,
Right.
or that you would use to use remote arms to go into a nuclear site and move stuff. That's perfect for somebody to sit there that loves video games and be going, oh yeah. They don't even have to be directly there. So there's all kinds of work for engineers, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
It's not that robots are going to put everybody out of work. It's going to give us an opportunity to provide so many people to get out there and do this work to clean the country up. Mm-hmm. And the next thing that comes up, why we have to clean it up. We got to get it cleaned up before these areas go underwater. We're going to lose most of Florida. We're going to lose most of the eastern seaboard. If we only lose 5 miles inland along the entire seaboard from Maine to Corpus Christi, as NOAA's predicting, and right now they're under orders to minimize how much they say global warming is going to hit. So if they're already saying it's that bad, how bad is it really?
They're under orders to...
Yes. In fact, in Florida, anybody that works for the government cannot say global warming.
Right. Can't even mention it. Right.
I did not know that.
So, and NOAA has orders that have been on TV. I'm sorry, I can't quote them directly. That they are to minimize any kind of predictions they do. At first, they've acted like it was for just storms, but it's any predictions they're supposed to go on the low side. And that's not talking about how much the damage on it. We're talking about eastern seaboard, New York City, Miami, all kinds, Wilmington, Roanoke, Virginia, all of these cities gone. Because they don't even have to be completely flooded to be unlivable. Mm-hmm. The damage and the waves and the weather that the companies are just so extreme that it's basically, we're going to lose New York City, no matter what. It's just low lying. How high up is Boston? How high up are some of these other facilities? We're going to lose them. We need to move these cities somewhere. We're going to have refugees, climate refugees. And that the timeline NOAA gives, go back and look at what it is. 2040.
2040?
2040.
Wow.
Nowhere on their site will it say that New York City is going to have to be evacuated. They just say, here's the map to showing where the water is going to flow. So if the damage is 10 miles in for every mile of water, and if they're showing 2 miles of gone, that's the entire New York City gone.
Yeah.
So where are these people going to go? What's going to happen to the devaluation of that land? And what's going to happen? I mean, all these places. Florida's going to get hit the worst.
Yeah.
It's just the flattest state you can imagine.
Well, like everything, we'll ignore it until it's a crisis.
Well, you see,
Yes.
No, they will ignore it until they have sold their interests to unknowing people.
Ah.
Like, the reason we didn't warn when the radiation cloud went over from Fukushima was they didn't want to drop the value of dairy products or real estate on the West Coast. They ordered all of the monitoring systems offline for calibration. They did not want to catch that cloud. Because in the past, there was an incident after a nuclear test in the Pacific where people stopped buying milk for a month or two. Put farmers out of work. You don't do something that puts farmers out of work. So when another thing is cesium loves apple blossoms.
Elaborate.
The apple blossoms concentrate. They suck up the cesium and put it into the apple.
Oh, geez.
So what if the public knew that?
Right.
Stop buying apples.
Yeah. If they stop buying apples, everything goes on. If they buy apples, it's still, we make a lot of money when people die. How many Democratic Party funeral organizations are there? Aren't they all Republican? But I'm deadly serious thinking that I don't want to let this property go because I think I'm right where everybody has to go. We're the center. We're the part of the country that's going to still have water. And so...
Do you think it's cleaner than, when we were talking to Mindy, we're kind of talking about the old industry. Well, it seemed to be mostly defense, but do you think it's cleaner there where you are as far as contamination and stuff than I don't know.
A little.
Okay.
Not much. The thing is it's everywhere.
Yeah.
All these dumps have been everywhere. Everything is tainted. And that's one of the reasons why I want to do a tour around the country to teach people about what's in their water and how to identify it and what things really work and what's just, the equivalent of a witch doctor waving a wand at something.
Yeah, I think we've probably talked about water. I know we've talked about water filters before, but, I used to just look at the, what was it, NSF? I think it was, to figure out which water filters, because there's a lot of stuff on the market that I don't think it really does anything, so you really have to dig and do some research to find out what is filtered out. But are there things that typically just don't get filtered out with things you can buy, like
basically if it drips by gravity, it's probably not doing adequate.
Okay.
And then there's different
filters. Are those the best ones? Yes, they are. Okay.
It takes multiple different types of things to take out different contaminants from your water. Carbon is good with taking out some chlorine and stuff like that. Large aromatic, but they won't take all of it out, but they'll take a significant hit so that your other filters don't get damaged so bad. And the carbon filters are cheap. You need at least 40 psi, 40 pounds per square inch of water pressure to actually make a difference in getting water clean. And then the next thing that I've never heard anywhere is pyrogens. Pyrogens are the remnants of other cells. When your body detects pyrogens in your bloodstream, or a lot of them in your gut has pyrogens in it because you break down food.
What is that?
Pyrogens, Pyro.
Okay.
And it literally means fever causer, fire maker.
Oh, okay.
Pyro is fire, Gen is maker, so it's a fire maker. And when your body catches up these broken cells, it takes a go. So if you have a lot of open sores or something, you could get ill. Just for not even live actions, just the dead cells. So there are different things in the water you take out different ways. And
sorry, go ahead, Snow.
no, yeah, go ahead.
I was just trying to look up, but I can't remember the name of it. Do you know off the top of your head a cleaning agent that starts with a T?
Trichloroethylene?
That must be it. Let me check. How do you trichloroethylene? When we lived out
Trichloroethylene.
Oh, trichloroethylene. When we lived out in another county from here, we were constantly getting notices that was too high in our water there, and it had other problems too. It was Chatham County, North Carolina, but yeah, even like before we moved in, there were notices in our mailbox. I never really, I mean, I filtered things, but I don't know. Anyway, it was always kind of worrying. But that was something, I think that was a cleaning agent that was always out of balance.
Abbreviated TCE?
Hmm?
Was it abbreviated TCE?
I think so. That sounds right.
There are just so many chemicals.
Yeah, right.
And we don't really control. Sometimes when chemicals get together, they make other chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it's voluntary. All the teeth have been taken out of all these organizations that used to go for the quality. So you voluntarily report. Occasionally they might catch you. I actually got caught for dumping clean water. I dumped like 1 million gallons of really clean water, and my facility had transuranics in it. So they assumed that I dumped some transuranics and dropped the water to hide it. Take it below dilution levels, and they were like out doing tests every day to see what we had going. But we were on vacation. We had a weekend off, and a valve failed, dumped the water.
Now, when you buy a bottled water, like say Dasani, it's the one that comes to mind, is that, for some reason I was thinking that one was a reverse osmosis or something, but what is this?
It'll say that it'll actually say RO on it. It'll say either the words reverse osmosis or RO microfilter.
Oh no, it combines the process. Dasani combines the process of reverse osmosis with a proprietary blend of minerals.
That's normal. Afterwards, you remineralize.
Right.
Okay.
That's okay. Is Dasani Pepsi?
Yeah. I actually think for bottled water, that one tastes like nothing. Like it tastes the best to me. Like, not that I buy much bottled water, but if I have to, that one.
The truth is,
doesn't just taste like tap water.
Yeah. One lawsuit would hurt them so bad. These companies, like when they say that it's purified water, it is.
Oh, okay.
Pepsi. Every time I've dealt with them, I know people might not like them or whatever for how much sugar or whatever they put in them, but their bottle specs are tight. I mean, what they allow, there's always errors on the side of don't let us have a possibility of a mistake that could lead to a lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't expect to ever see somebody getting a contaminant of any measurable level in a Dasani water bottle.
Okay.
Good to know.
Heard it here, everyone. Yeah. Ad for Dasani.
Because like I said, when you got big pockets and you know people will sue you if something's found out, you don't give them that opportunity.
Right.
So they are that careful. They're people. When you go into, I haven't been into a water bottling facility for a Pepsi company, but I have been into. I have been into other bottling facilities of Pepsi's. The floor is full of suds always.
Oh, you're getting the butt in the face.
Yeah, there is no opportunity in there at all for something getting in. Like these cases where there's a mouse found in it, it's always somebody stuck the mouse in there on purpose.
Right.
Okay, like is that an urban legend about the bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken, or is that a real story?
I don't know about that one.
The rat or the mouse in it.
I've heard that story. I have I have no idea if there's any validity to that.
And since it's fried at the end, it's just so many employees, such a large chance for one disgruntled employee. Hey, let's fling a rat at it.
Yeah.
But Pepsi's got cameras on people.
Uh-huh.
They come out, so they look at bottles. The bottles all have to flip several times, where if they have like an extra eighth of a gram of weight, like if a mouse paw was in a bottle, that would be enough to make the bottle not be able to go across this wire that it has to go across.
Oh, okay.
And there's all these little tricks they have to see if is there any debris at all possible in that bottle, and the bottle has to be perfectly weighed to go through the line. And I'm certain that Coke is the same. I haven't been to a Coke bottler.
So would you say any of if you have to buy a bottle of water, that the bigger companies that would stand to lose more are safer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because they are so afraid of a lawsuit that they are very careful.
Okay.
You're not going to see opportunities to sue them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And they'll have a large...
When we run out of water, and that guy who, it was in the Big Short movie, I forget his name, at the end, the real estate bubble guy that predicted all that, what was it, the credit default swaps or something? Anyway, at the end of the movie, he says he's investing in water because that's the next, how he's.
Well, in California, it's illegal to give somebody free water.
What?
If there's an emergency, the California National Guard, State Guard, what do you want to call them? They have 6 trucks that have mobile RO that can produce like 100 gallons a minute, maybe 600 gallons a minute. They can take sewer water and make decent drinking water. I would drink it. They're not allowed to turn those on, to deploy those, until all water has been sold from local vendors.
So we have...
Yeah. As expected, if you're poor, die quickly.
Right.
Yeah. Until the last bottle is sold, and when it's time for those trucks to deploy, they have to get the sign off from the local.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay, we're sold out.
Okay, we have Gordon in the chat.
You live in one of these places. If you're poor, just die quickly. Apparently, that's not just the Republican motto.
I need to pop away for a second.
Oh, okay.
My level of disappointment with the West Coast just doesn't seem to find a bottom pit.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why I never really felt at ease with being around there.
Wait, being around where?
The West Coast. I mean, I did want to move there originally when I was younger, but the more I've had time to just sort of consider what that means, the less and less appealing it's gotten over the years.
So have you lived in Oklahoma your whole life?
Pretty much, aside from a couple, there were a few summers where I had to move to Japan for a couple months so that my parents could afford to live. I basically grew up in Oklahoma. I know my accent doesn't really portray me as somebody who's a native-born Oklahoman, but
no.
Well, that's what happens when your parents are from elsewhere, I think.
Oh, so.
Yeah, or you're like me. I've been in the South a long time, but I fought it to not pick up a Southern accent. Of course, I had.
What's that? I just
Canadian and Michigan too, but it's hard to not when you just naturally pick things up. Anyway.
Oh, my dad's accent supposedly comes from my mother's side. I believe her family was from Iowa.
I don't really know an Iowa accent. We'll have to ask Snork.
You-
It sounds just very, I don't know, not really an accent at all.
Yeah, it just sounds.
It's like Iowa or Ohio.
Oh, now,
Like
okay.
if you ever hear him trying to pronounce washing machine, it'll come out as a washing machine.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
In Ohio, if you get up into northern Ohio, I mean, it's just like Michigan. It's that kind of nasally Ohio talk, like that.
Mm.
Anyway. Yeah, it's very interesting, actually, linguistically. The spot between Michigan, Detroit, and Windsor, Ontario is, obviously, it's different countries, but it's like, I was reading this article about how, if Gordon's listening, he'll know what I'm talking about, how drastically different an accent in that close of an area is. It's completely different. Obviously, you know, it's Canada and the U.S., but it doesn't happen anywhere. Or I think that's like one of the only places, definitely in the U.S., that are on a border that happens. It's like I forget. It's something about. Wait, let me see if I can find it.
That might be due to their Britishness.
Yeah.
Get some more water.
But you have very totally different sounds, just like with the vowels, the way you pronounce things. You know, Michigan's the A's are very and it's completely different, just right over the border into Canada. It's my grandmother would say, I'll phone you back. The A is a ah instead of a eh. It's so different. It's just really interesting.
Chicago has like 4 accents.
But Chicago, that's very close to Michigan, though, sounding.
Yeah,
you know,
it is right there,
yeah,
too.
Right, it's the
yeah.
sound. The the salad. You have a salad. Right,
Yeah.
Gordon, if you're listening?
But in England, they say there's a new accent every 26 miles.
Right. Well, my uncle used to make fun of my sister and I because he's in Michigan, because we moved so much all over the place, and he said, he would say, y'all come back now, eh? Yeah, it's pretty much. And then at some point,
so cringe.
That is pretty funny.
it is funny, but at some point, I worked so hard to not pick up an accent that I was told I kind of have a Dan Rather accent, like just kind of flat, because I didn't want, especially the Southern. I'm sorry to insult anybody Southern, but it just has that connotation of, you know, you sound like Forrest Gump. So yeah, I tried very hard not to pick that up, but anyway.
Well, I get that all the time. I have people call me, you know, I speak like a weatherman.
Right. Yep. But the thing is, though, as you get older, I think you settle into, like, I don't know, 15 years ago, say, I would go back and spend any time in Michigan, I would pick up the accent again. And I would, you know, come back saying tomorrow instead of, you know, just slight things like that. But now it doesn't happen anymore. You know, it's just, anyway, you sort of grow out of it, I guess. But anyway. All right. Well, everybody's so talkative tonight. I think
No. Sorry, I've been so quiet.
That's okay. Well,
you know, I guess I've been thinking about a lot of things.
It's fun to just look at the bottom of your feet.
Yeah.
We can talk to your feet.
Sorry, I did not even realize that my camera was pointing that direction.
Okay, everybody.
Well,
No.
We have to be careful here. Remember, after Victor showed us his feet, he showed us his butt.
That's right. No.
Okay.
Not
No.
doing that.
Hold on a second.
No, that was on After Hours. We don't do that here.
Look, I'm not gonna pull James and just start showing up on game naked.
No shirt, James. Yeah.
All right.
Well, you know, I remember when Ebon started calling that After Hours, I was like, why does that sound familiar? And then, sure enough, I saw I had a free trial of Showtime, so I could watch the Putin interviews. That's what it was. And sure enough, yeah, that's the adult channel, After Hours. So it's a wonder we didn't get more people coming along on.
I feel like it would have it might have come across as a bit too on the nose.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh man.
So no, we'll let the cat show his butt. Everyone else can behave. All right. Well, if you guys.
Oh yeah. I know I made a comment about this on my Twitter page, and it ended up being the subject of a rant of mine on to Black Show. But did anyone see the Nico House's video on most recent video on the TYT network?
No, I saw
a little
something
bit of
about it.
Yeah.
But I didn't actually see it.
I will say this. I never get amazed, cease to be amazed at how liberals manage to turn quickly on each other in order to save face with what they consider to be the general public. Like,
Wait, define liberal.
Huh?
Define liberal, please. In this context.
I suppose in this case neoliberal, but
okay.
But but I've also seen enough petty. But I've also seen a fair amount of petty on regards to that thing. So like I'm not trying to. I don't want to come across as too harsh, or like color, or like a completely lacking self-awareness. But
okay.
During so Nico did a video earlier this week showcasing Anna basically throwing Jimmy under the bus live on their network programming. Not just like on an offhand Twitter comment, but like live on air answering a super chat question.
Okay.
And it basically descended into a multitude of things, including accusing Jimmy of peddling conspiracy theories, of providing false information about the Syrian conflict, and the white helmets, accusing him of spreading conspiracy theories that Hillary Clinton had Parkinson's disease.
But wait a minute,
and lying about the Russian narrative.
Yeah, I mean, Max Blumenthal's covered that. I mean, I consider him very credible about the white helmets stuff in Syria. And maybe they're referring to, there was another journalist, I can't remember her name. What was her name? That was on Jimmy Dore's show and had been in Syria.
It's probably, I know who you're talking about.
But she had been there and reported things firsthand. So were they calling back?
Also Abby Martin, but like
Abby Martin has too.
TYT seems to have a very touch and go relationship with Abby Martin aside from Jimmy.
Oh wait, what is Garden? Garden must have something to say about Anna. Come on, isn't that one of his favorite
I feel like
topics?
we've awoken a great beast, and we're about to all quiver in fear.
Yeah, don't get Garden started.
Oh no! Oh, is Garden in the chat? Oh no!
Okay, go ahead.
This is not getting well at all.
I like when he goes off on TYT. It's pretty funny. Oh, here we go. Try to keep up on the TYT hate circuit. Cool. Okay, so tell the rest of it. What happened?
And so, I mean, and the worst. So I made this a couple of points. So I made a couple of points about this. Namely, that was the most of it, and like Jake was not helpful in this situation whatsoever.
No.
Although I'll give him credit. And there's a lot of things I could say about Jank, but at least at this one particular instance, I'll give him credit for attempting to initially diffuse the situation. Initially.
Okay.
And then basically letting Anna run roughshod over Jimmy when he was not there to defend himself.
Right.
And they are his employees. And they are his employers.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
You know, there's a lot of things to be said about this. And I don't like the idea of throwing a giant fuss over this, you know, because like I had my good spiel over shitting on Sam Cedar over this, but you know, like it was one thing, like Sam Cedar was bad. You know, like what happened with Sam Cedar was bad because I made the point at the time that it was mostly because this was supposed to be somebody who I believe Jimmy considered as a friend. Basically going out of his way to throw Jimmy under the bus for opinions that Jimmy didn't actually hold. But this hits even deeper because, you know, like it was one thing when it was Sam Cedar. Sam Cedar, you know, that sucks. It does suck. I wouldn't be surprised if it sucked on a personal level for Jimmy. Yeah, to lose a friend like that, and certainly, in such a, you know, conniving and underhanded manner. But this hits a lot closer to home because this isn't just his friend. This isn't just a political colleague, an ally of his. This is also his employers, and that's a very different relationship. You know, Jimmy and Sam can spar with each other as much as they want. It looks bad on the progressive movement, but beyond that, that's where it stays. But this is really bad because Anna and Jank aren't just political colleagues. They're not just friends of his, or you know, friends. They're his bosses. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That changes the dynamic entirely. Jimmy may be able to fight back against Sam if he so chooses. He can't fight back against Jank and Anna, not without losing his job. And right. And in LA, where rent alone can cost you in the thousands to afford, and I honestly don't know enough about Jimmy's current living in a financial situation to be able to discern that. But if I had to take a guess, it's not something that you can cheaply afford on just Patreon money.
I think he makes a good bit on Patreon, but
I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
And I think he could go out on his own for sure. So, but
in LA, I'll tell you something. I have relatives who live in LA. That's not a cheap fucking place to live. That's talking thousands upon thousands of dollars in rent alone. Much less whether or not much less paying for gas, much less paying for groceries, much less, you know, paying for the basic stuff that you need to survive. Healthcare. You know, yeah, like where is he going to get healthcare? The UK health insurance from? You may be able to cover your rent, but then what about your insurance? Can you pay for your car insurance? Can you pay for your
Well, I'm saying I think Jimmy might be able to,
your medical.
From his Patreon and what he makes, funny garden. I think he might be able to, you know, not need to be attached to TYT. Is my
and that's not even mentioning the fact that he has at least like 3 or 4 other people under his employ for the Jimmy Dore show.
Yeah.
And so that hits at the core of this. Jimmy can't effectively fight back against Jank and Anna if they hold him if they try and pin him like this, because they control his they basically control whether or not he's going to have a home tomorrow. Right. And that's not a fair playing field. And right. For Jake and Anna to, especially Anna in particular, but for Jake not to have stopped this when he had the chance to, and for Anna to abuse her position her position and authority to essentially flat Jimmy on their network when he was not there to defend himself, and when he's unable to defend himself. Health, not just for proximity, but also because his financial dependency is tied to whether or not Cenk and Anna are ready to cut the noose on him.
I'm curious what their numbers, their viewership is.
They're tanked. They're tanked.
That's what where
Live
were we
viewership
talking about
probably
that recently?
Tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah.
so TYT's, viewership is dropping, and I think
Yes.
Jimmy Dore's is gaining, is it not?
That's correct.
Yeah, his has gone up. Yep.
Yeah.
The
So-
truth is, there might not be anything for him to lose soon.
Yeah.
Right.
They're ejecting people.
Yeah, and I get the feeling, I don't know, I've heard people, give Jimmy Dore hell for still being associated with them. I say as long as he's still being true to his, work, and it doesn't matter. But yeah, I mean, he doesn't seem like he would care as long as he could still find a way to do his show. He doesn't seem like that. If they were to try to control his content,
Honestly, I think between this and the fight with Steve-O, I find it difficult to imagine he's gonna be able to stay much longer than a couple more months.
Yeah.
I don't know that,
but
TYT is going to be much longer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're.
Well, I mean, let's be honest here for a second. I respect Jimmy Dore immensely, but his boss is a fucking ethics swamp.
Yes.
He should go find a spot on Real Time. I think that'd be a great place for him. He should go hang out with Bill Maher.
No,
Cenk, I mean.
Like, Cenk is many things, but I wouldn't wish my worst enemies to be stuck playing clown for a closet racist like Bill Maher. So
I'd just like to see that much fat ego in one, just obnoxious, just Cenk and Maher at each other. That would be fun.
Cenk has hubris, but I think Anna is a lot more brazenly arrogant than Cenk is. Than Cenk is. Cenk is a showboater, but Cenk is a lot of hot air. He showboats a lot.
They're both obnoxious. I look back on that and I think, when I watched that during the primary, I mean, it was just a reaction to, oh my God, I can't stomach CNN anymore. And I just happened upon it and I was like, oh, this is better. But it was short-lived. I know I completely stopped watching it DNC week in Philly that July.
Yeah.
So what was that? Maybe
that was around the same time they got that $20 million boost. No.
Well, all I had to hear was the complete and total pivot to all stupid Trump stories all the time. They weren't covering the Green Party. They weren't covering anything. It was just, fall in line and vote for Hillary because Trump is scary. So I was done. So that was probably maybe I watched it for about 6 months, I guess. And that was it.
And then there was TYT politics, and Sheridan was doing some decent work.
He's still doing a great job with Flint. He is. So, yeah. I think he's a good reporter. Or he's a great reporter, aside from the other stuff, but I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah, we've had our spill over that, and I think each of us have said our piece on Jordan Sheridan at this point.
I did see something on League Camp the other day that I was very hurt by.
Oh?
He says that we could supply clean water for everybody in the United States for $10 billion. And I think that we need $10 billion just for Flint.
Shit.
Well, you should email him and tell him that.
Well, I don't know him well enough. I don't think he'd even get my email. But the thing is that we have things repeated like this, and people start thinking it's a fact. So when you start looking at what you have to present to the water, how you have to present it, to make sure that the people actually are getting taken care of, we're not. There's no way you're going to get clean water for less than, if not $1,000 per house, $1,000 per person. If it's that bad, the way that they're being presented, and there's going to be probably $60 to $100 per year in maintenance costs to keep it going. And there's no way, we have 300 million people in this country. Almost everybody's water is compromised. There's no way we can provide it for $10 billion. And we can't just be making flippant things off our top of our head. I agree that we should be spending the water or the money on water rather than on aircraft carriers. Aircraft carriers are just basically targets anyway.
Yes.
Well, you hear?
Yeah, like the whole well, like one of the basic principles of American naval doctrine was basically that why would you want to have a bunch of ships when you could artillery ships when you could just have a bunch of aircraft here, a bunch of airplanes to do the same job and do it with more precision. The problem now is that the reason why you'd want to have an artillery cruiser now is because because the alternative is having a boat that is completely defenseless to submarines, and that tends to have very awkward consequences when you're a plane that is carrying several hundred thousand tons of ordnance that you can only use by launching something into the air over the course of 15 minutes.
Well, when we were talking to this candidate, Mindy Mesmer, who's fighting all of these industry, she was talking about the lobbyists that you have to deal with. I mean, it's that don't want to clean things up, that don't, I mean, we need 1,000 candidates like her. She managed to actually get a lot of stuff passed in New Hampshire. She's been in New Hampshire House, I think. I can't keep up with everybody's stuff. But anyway, it's just a huge battle. It can't be just one candidate. I mean, and you've got these industries that are going to fight it. So I don't know. It's promising when you hear stuff like that from a candidate like her. She already was able to do stuff in New Hampshire, so maybe she can take that and, do that on a national.
Yeah, and that's, as an environmental scientist, she's got the cred to back her up.
Right.
So that's always we need a lot more people like her.
Yeah, and also she was saying that it's it really is, it's a nonpartisan issue. A lot of course, the libertarian kind of right in New Hampshire doesn't want the regulations, but when people start they're part of these cancer clusters, they kind of change their mind.
Well, just taking these people and providing them water up to code is going to be expensive. The problem is that our codes are washed out.
Right.
Our codes themselves are not adequate to prevent these people from being able to be taken care of by cancer. I can guarantee you, if I go down to the municipal water place, they are probably meeting all federal regulations they need to meet.
Yeah, they're just not good enough.
Right. Because any time that requires extra money, they just grandfather in, okay, that amounts, okay now. So first we have to go back and say, well, yeah, maybe it would cost us $10 billion to take to the water quality that's listed, but we need to take water quality to the part that's necessary.
Yeah, I really wish you had been able to be there. Maybe we could get her to come on and talk another time.
And I'll just make sure I don't have the car. This time I told him, yeah, I'll go down and pick you up, no problem. Because he hates to park at work. So if I'm available, he goes, yeah, come down, pick me up. I don't have to park the car. So I said, sure, get there. And I go inside and I buy some pizzas. Big pizza sale. And so I come out and car's dead.
That's no fun.
I did not leave my lights on or anything. So
well, my minivan now has 150,000 miles on it. So I hope I'm not running into that stuff anytime soon.
I have a battery jump starter, or a car jump starter. It's the same size as my cell phone.
Oh.
And I left it in the other vehicle.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So we had to walk home and get it.
One of the things we're going to start doing once we get past the midterms is start doing more shows. I've kind of wanted to do this all along. I call it a show, whatever. We'll stream to the CWAC or CFAR Facebook page or both, is to have candidates come on that say they have a special interest, like with Mindy Mesmer. I think that's a fascinating topic we can talk about. We could do multiple streams about and pull in other people that want to talk about that subject. You know, I think once a lot of these candidates aren't under pressure of running right now, but they might be staying in the race for 2020. You know, another one is I want to keep doing kind of an anti-war, I don't know, theme, I guess. Like we had Sander Hicks and Brian Witt, who is ex-Marine, but he's pretty outspoken about that. And so, I don't know, that's just kind of my idea, to sort of open it up and have more discussions like with these candidates and keep giving them airtime, you know, for all our millions of viewers here.
Sure.
And
but
have it interesting subjects like what?
It's a moth.
Oh. And like, yeah, and pull in people that are experts in certain things. I think that would be interesting.
I can cover robots.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
I can cover labor issues of using robots, and how, you know, how we have a good economy with all these robots. Because actually, we can have a fantastic economy with all these robots.
Right.
And we can have a fantastic economy that people don't have to lose their arms or get hurt to work. They don't have to be exposed to nasty chemicals. And I think we can live a better life working with robots.
Right.
Well, I think we have, I don't know, what if we got 60 some odd candidates? I've lost track. And we keep getting more to sign on, even though, you know, we're going to
winding down. Yeah.
Yeah, even though we're winding down. So I just hope a lot of them will keep going and run again for 2020. So, you know, if we come up with panels to do on different topics that they're passionate about, I think that'll be cool conversations. Especially
if you get multiple together.
Right. Yeah, that's the best thing, I think. Yeah, I was, what was it? Yeah, I think Sander Hicks, it just didn't work out to have him on at the same time with Brian Witt, but I think that would have been a good
But
discussion.
What's necessary to win these? When you present with a path to get people away from the suffering, that's the candidate that they're going to go for. That's what happened with Bernie. People saw that candidate's got something that's going to help us. That's the one we're going to go for. And that was enormous what he was able to accomplish in such a short.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just wish he joined a year earlier.
Right.
Yeah, and jump ship and run as an independent.
Yeah, I think he would have had a good shot as an independent.
That's the other thing that's going to be really interesting to see, because like Sander Hicks was a Dem and is running as an independent. We know Tim Canova is now. How many of these candidates might do that after their experience running in the Democratic primary? I think it's possible that more
I'd
will.
see a lot more if Canova wins.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, that would be great.
That would be the little crack breaking in the dam right there. Canova
Yep.
wins.
And I'd love to see that. I mean, you know, I support the Green Party too, and you know, I voted Green several times, but I also think it's really kind of exciting to think about independence without a party in the way, you know, just straight candidate to the voter, really. But anyway, maybe that's unrealistic, but not impossible, I guess. So, all right, well, I think I am gonna end it here because I've been sitting up a while. But always good to see you guys, and yeah, we're gonna be doing more candidate interviews, obviously through November. What is it, 6th? I think that's it.
And then we start prepping for 2018. Woo!
Some of us are already there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
and I think that's going to
Yeah,
be
like our good buddy Andrew Yank, who, again, everyone should support.
Yes.
You go look up his platform. I actually did get a chance during my planning period a couple days ago to watch one of his speeches on automation. I don't necessarily agree with everything he had to say. I think there's a deal of good stuff to be had there. Yeah, I definitely think that people should go ahead and check him out. I think this might be the real deal.
And if you listen to when they did wingdings in Clear Lake, Iowa last month, because you can't see it, and panicked and pulled the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you can listen to it. The sound file is available online. You'll see that he quotes me.
Very cool.
Yes.
That's
Yes,
good, Snort.
we're slowly becoming a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Our operation is pretty small, but it's growing, and I don't know. Maybe more independent media will pick up more with some of these candidates. I mean, some of them got like on Jimmy Dore's show, but like Brian Witt, he hasn't had any. Jimmy Dore or anybody, I forget who he said he talked to other than us, not one other person. Who was that?
I believe Yang has been on the Jimmy Dore show.
Oh, he has? But see, we need all these candidates to have have access to
Brian was on Uphill Media.
Oh, he was? Okay.
He was on Uphill Media. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great one. But don't they pretty much just do West Coast?
They pretty much stick to the West Coast.
Yeah, that would be good if, who knows, maybe there's some kind of collaboration there.
Yeah.
Going forward. But okay.
Well, I gave them parts to build a new server. Once they get that done, they should be able to branch out to country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now if we could get them on Lee Camp's show. Oof.
I love Lee Camp's show, but it's RT, and you know how that goes over with some people. So
just somehow we can get a hold of Lee and don't have him keep saying this thing about the $10 billion.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that might be a bit of a low ball. That may be a bit of a low ball estimate.
Yeah, I mean, just the number of cars that you need to have the people go out and service them to keep the stuff working, because anything that's going to work is not going to involve the city municipal plant that's already working at federal limits. To get the people clean water, you're going to have the filters at their house.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, well, we'll see you guys. What's next weekend? Anything in particular?
Oh, well, if TYT fucks up again, we'll at least have some entertaining content.
There we go. And if that's we'll have to have Garden on.
Yes.
For sure. Fuck, yeah.
Okay.
Garden.
Well, he should come on anyway.
Yeah.
Garden, okay, we haven't really been sending the link out to enough people. We should do that. We'll send it out to more. So, okay.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Right.
Good to see you guys.
See you guys soon.
All right, later.